What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to compare auto layouts and constraints. They are both features in Figma that help you build responsive layouts. You can use them individually and you can use them together in your design. But the question is, which one is the best? Let's find out together. So in my last video, I I promised to drop a link in my description, but I wasn't able to drop it. So this is the link. You can copy the link from the screen. So I had an issue with YouTube. YouTube is not allowing me to add links to my video, but I promise to fix that very soon. So you can just use the link you are seeing on the screen and you'll be able to access the file. It's the resource for the last video, so you can get access to the pictures and practice the video, or practice the tutorial rather. So yeah, let's get into today's video. So this frame should be permanent on the right hand side of this auto layout, of this normal frame, not auto layout frame, and this one should be permanent on the center. That's what I did. And for this one, I made this one fill the container. I made this for auto layout fill the container. Then this one hug, this one fixed, and this one is fixed. Then I now use the space between settings in the auto layout options. So basically, if I also expand this one, it will respond, right? The spacing and everything will still look good. But this is just a simple example, right? This is a very simple example. So let us check something else. So for example, if I decide to remove one of these navigation links, so let's say for example, I don't want to add this service to it. I want to remove services. I just want to have home, invest, and about us. So if I come here and turn it off, let's just say temporarily, I just turn it off. Look at it, it leaves the gap in between, and that's to tell you that this frame doesn't respond to anything inside, and even this one doesn't respond to anything inside. So but let's come and try it on auto layout frame. When I click this and turn it off, what happens? They'll just automatically adapt, like they utilize the space. So based on the space, so if I decide to increase this and say I want to add more, it just keeps the gap, it maintains the gap, and it just expands the frame based on the number of items inside, right? So but constraints for normal frames and constraints, it can't do that. So let's check let's check a second example. Okay, so let's first understand how auto layout works and how constraint works. So auto layout is just like a feature that helps you to create a kind of frame that is responsive to the frames that are outside of it. So not frames that are beside it, but if a frame is wrapped in another bigger auto layout frame, then it can respond to the frame, and it can also respond to objects inside the auto layout frame. That's how auto layout works. But for constraints works with only the frames outside it. So if this is a frame, it can only respond to the frame outside. It can't respond to the objects inside. So that's the major difference. So let's take for example, if I decide to say I want to remove, or let's even start with expanding the frame. So if I want to make this header longer for the auto layout frame, if I drag like this, you can see that the object and everything inside is responding to the movement. Like with more expansion of the frame, the objects we they will adapt. But for constraints, it's also like that, based on the settings that I have placed. So inside this constraint, I've already set this to be fixed in the center. Can you see? So this is the constraint settings, and when you click auto layout has its own separate setting. But this is for constraints. So constraint has its own settings here. So for this auto layout frame, I set it to left and right, which means I want it to respond to both left and right. When I expand it to the right, I want it to respond. When I expand it to the left, I want it to respond. Then I want this one to stay on the left. That's why I selected left and top. It should be permanent on the left hand side of this frame, and this one should be permanent on the right hand side. So this is another example. This is a bento grid, and this one, the I've already done some settings on the auto layout frame, because I made most of it to fill container. You can see this one is on fill container. All of them are fill. It's only these two that are fixed, and the only reason why these two are fixed, uh, the only reason why this one is fixed is because it's looking like a vertical card. So if we are to expand it, we don't want to really expand this one to gain more width, but we can expand these other ones to gain more width. So it is very dynamic. And that's one good thing with auto layout. So let us check for constraints. For constraints too, I've already done the settings, the left and right settings, the center. Like this one now is fixed to the center. Can you see center, vertical and horizontal? So some of it are center, some of it are left and right. But now I've already set it to the best settings that constraints can have to make this responsive. But if I try to make it responsive, you see what happens. So what happens? This thing is maintaining only the gap here. And the only reason why it's maintaining the gap here is because I didn't set this one to left and right, just like the way I did not set this one to fill, right? So I didn't set this to left and right. I only set this to right and right and top. So if I set it to left and right, it will expand the frames here and not maintain the gap. That's the only reason why it's maintaining the gap, because I didn't set it to left and right. So, but for the other ones that I set to left and right, look at it. When I expand it, the cards expand, even the text expand, because I also set the text to left and right. But the only problem is that it doesn't maintain the gap, and that's the major issue that constraints has. So when you use constraint with regular frames, this is the issue you will face when you're trying to make it responsive. But take look at auto layout. Auto layout has the gap, the same gap as this, but because since I've done all those settings, if I'm to expand this, because this is an auto layout frame, and also auto layout is very strict with the gap and the organization of items inside it, it's just going to maintain the gap, right? Even the text, they are still going to respond the same way, but it's going to expand and maintain the gap between the cards, and this is looking neater than constraints, right? So that's not to tell you that constraint is entirely useless, because I just like I mentioned in the beginning, you can use both constraints and you can use both constraints and auto layout together in your design, because even that's the best practice. Like, you need to know when to use auto layout and when to use constraint. So for example, look at this image and this image. So these three images, they are controlled by constraints. And the only reason why I did that is because for the fact that auto layout is very strict with positioning, if I place this and with the kind of padding I gave this frame, if I place this inside the frame with auto layout, it won't give me this kind of positioning. I won't be able to place it at the bottom of the page, and I won't be able to easily flex around with the image. So for me to be flexible around the image and ignoring the strict rules of auto layout, then I can set it to absolute position, which helps me to ignore the auto layout. And once I ignore the auto layout, it will switch back to constraint. Now I can use constraint to control it. That's the only way I'm able to keep this in the center and at the bottom. Can you see center, bottom? The same thing is applicable to this. This one I set it to scale, but the only reason why I did not really touch this, the either I set it to scale or not, it doesn't really matter, because I'm not this frame is not going to expand when I expand my auto layout. That's why I left it at scale, right? But assuming it's going to expand just like this, I'll just set it to bottom and center. The same thing applicable to this. This one is left and top, and the only reason to why I didn't touch it is because this card is not going to expand. But you can see that every other one that is going to expand, that has something that is in an absolute position, is expanding as just the way I want it to expand. So I hope you understand the major difference between these two frames. So that's just it. Like, you can try it out. You can try to create layouts and see how you can use auto layout and constraints to make things responsive in your design. So that will be it for this video. Then thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and you can share. If you find this video educative, you can share with someone that might need it. And also don't forget to subscribe. So I will be seeing you in the next video, and that will be it for now.